Welcome back, and today we're going beneath the ocean's surface to uncover the powerful and often overlooked story of USS Patrick Henry, SSBN 599, one of the silent guardians of the Cold War and a key pillar of America's nuclear deterrent. This is a story not filled with famous battles or dramatic headlines, but with quiet patrols, intense responsibility, and a level of pressure few people on Earth have ever experienced. USS Patrick Henry was born in an era when the world lived under the constant shadow of nuclear war. The late 1950s and early 1960s were defined by tension between the United States and the Soviet Union. Both superpowers were racing to build weapons capable of delivering devastating blows across continents, and military leaders understood a terrifying truth: if nuclear war ever began, it might end civilization itself. Preventing that war became just as important as preparing for it. The solution was deterrence, and at the heart of that strategy was the ballistic missile submarine. Unlike bombers or land-based missiles, submarines could disappear into the vast oceans, making them almost impossible to find and destroy. As long as these submarines remained hidden and armed, no enemy could ever be sure they had eliminated America's ability to retaliate. USS Patrick Henry was designed to be part of that silent promise. Laid down at Electric Boat in Groton, Connecticut, USS Patrick Henry was part of the historic George Washington-class submarines, the first generation of fleet ballistic missile submarines. These vessels were groundbreaking, not only in technology but in purpose. Patrick Henry was named after the famous American patriot who declared, "Give me liberty, or give me death," a name that perfectly reflected the gravity of the mission the submarine would carry. Commissioned in 1960, USS Patrick Henry entered service at a time when ballistic missile submarines were still an experiment. Every patrol was a test, every system had to prove itself, and every sailor aboard understood that they were pioneers. The submarine was equipped with 16 Polaris ballistic missiles, each capable of carrying a nuclear warhead and striking targets thousands of miles away. Fired from beneath the ocean's surface, these missiles represented a revolutionary leap in military capability. Life aboard USS Patrick Henry was demanding, intense, and unlike anything most people could imagine. Space was extremely limited, and the submarine carried more than 100 men in a steel tube deep underwater for months at a time. Sailors slept in stacked bunks, often sharing beds in shifts. There were no windows, no sunlight, and no fresh air, only recycled atmosphere and artificial lighting. Days blended together, measured not by sunrise and sunset, but by watches and routines. Despite the harsh conditions, morale and discipline were critical. The crew trained constantly, running drills for every possible emergency. Fire, flooding, reactor issues, and missile system malfunctions were all rehearsed again and again. On a ballistic missile submarine, there was no room for error. One mistake could have catastrophic consequences, not only for the ship, but for the world. USS Patrick Henry operated with the now famous Blue Crew and Gold Crew system. This innovation allowed one crew to take the submarine on patrol while the other rested and trained ashore. When the submarine returned, the crews would swap, and Patrick Henry would soon head back out to sea. This system maximized time on patrol and ensured that America's nuclear deterrent was always active and ready. The submarine's deterrent patrols were conducted in near total secrecy. Even families of the crew often didn't know where their loved ones were or when they would return. Once USS Patrick Henry submerged and headed out to its patrol area, it vanished from the world. Radio silence was the rule, broken only by carefully controlled and encrypted communications. The goal was simple: remain hidden at all costs. During these patrols, USS Patrick Henry carried out the most serious mission imaginable. At any moment, the crew could receive an order to launch nuclear missiles. That order would mean the end of the world as it was known. Sailors lived with this reality every day, performing their duties with professionalism while knowing the unimaginable power resting just meters away from them. The early 1960s were a dangerous time, and USS Patrick Henry was on patrol during some of the most tense moments of the Cold War. The Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962 brought the United States and the Soviet Union closer to nuclear war than ever before. While political leaders negotiated on the surface, ballistic missile submarines like Patrick Henry remained on silent alert beneath the waves, ready to act if deterrence failed. Ironically, the success of USS Patrick Henry and its sister submarines was measured by what did not happen. No missiles were launched, no nuclear war erupted. The presence of these submarines helped stabilize an unstable world, convincing adversaries that a surprise attack would never succeed. This silent balance of terror kept the peace, even as tensions flared above the surface. As technology evolved, USS Patrick Henry underwent upgrades to keep pace with advancing missile systems and navigation equipment. The Polaris missile system itself was improved, gaining greater range and reliability. While newer submarine classes were eventually designed with ballistic missiles in mind from the very beginning, Patrick Henry remained a vital part of the deterrent force for many years. The crew aboard USS Patrick Henry formed bonds that lasted a lifetime. Sharing such intense conditions and responsibilities created a deep sense of brotherhood. Sailors trusted each other completely, knowing that everyone's life depended on teamwork and competence. These men served without public recognition, their achievements classified and their sacrifices largely unseen. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, newer and more advanced ballistic missile submarines began to take over the mission. Vessels with improved stealth, greater missile capacity, and more advanced systems entered service, gradually replacing the pioneering George Washington-class boats. USS Patrick Henry had fulfilled its role as a trailblazer. In 1983, after more than 2 decades of service, USS Patrick Henry was decommissioned. Its operational life had come to an end, but its legacy was secure. The submarine had completed dozens of deterrent patrols, standing watch during some of the most dangerous years in human history. It had helped prove that ballistic missile submarines were reliable, survivable, and essential to national security. Following decommissioning, USS Patrick Henry entered the nuclear-powered ship and submarine recycling program. The dismantling of a nuclear submarine is a complex and highly regulated process. Every step was carefully controlled to ensure environmental safety and proper handling of nuclear materials. Eventually, the submarine was recycled, its steel repurposed, and its reactor compartment disposed of according to strict guidelines. Today, USS Patrick Henry no longer sails the oceans, but its impact is still felt. Every modern ballistic missile submarine traces its lineage back to vessels like Patrick Henry. The strategies, technologies, and operational practices developed during its service continued to shape naval doctrine and nuclear deterrence policy. Perhaps the most important part of USS Patrick Henry's story is the human element. The sailors who served aboard accepted a burden few people will ever understand. They lived in isolation, carried weapons of unimaginable power, and stood ready to act in a moment that they hoped would never come. Their mission was not to fight a war, but to prevent one. USS Patrick Henry stands as a reminder that history is often shaped in silence. While politicians spoke and armies maneuvered, this submarine and others like it patrolled the depths, unseen and uncelebrated. Their success lies in the fact that the Cold War never turned hot, and nuclear war was avoided. As we look back on this remarkable vessel, we can see how courage, discipline, and innovation came together beneath the waves. USS Patrick Henry was more than a machine, it was a shield, a warning, and a promise. A promise that as long as freedom was threatened, there would be guardians in the deep, standing watch so the world above could sleep in peace.